Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Angelos. I focus on fintech and crypto at Visa. And this is a series called Fintech Perspectives, where we have the great pleasure to connect with our partners and clients as they innovate in the fintech ecosystem. And today I'm very excited to introduce Shivani Siroya from Tala. Welcome, Shivani.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, great. Maybe we can start off. What is Tala? What is it that you folks are building, and how should we think about Tala in the fintech ecosystem?
Sure. So I think the first thing that I would say is that what Tala is building is really a partnership with customers and a financial partnership. So our mission as a company is to accelerate financial agency for the global underserved. And so when we think of that word, we're pretty intentional about using the word agency. And so what we're building is the ability to actually help our customers use money, protect their money, and grow their money over their financial lives.
Is the entry point into that lending, which seems to be one of the primary ways that you're accessing the 1.7 billion folks on the planet who are underbanked or have no bank?
It is. I mean, today, that was really the way that we started. We started by providing our customers with access to credit. And the reason that we did that was because it is a product that our customers can use to really solve those pain points, but also be able to achieve their aspirations. So many of our customers use our current credit product as working capital, but they also use it for day-to-day needs, consumption, as well as emergencies. And so it is that fluid kind of product that can work across many things. But ultimately, again, what we're building towards is creating more customized products that meet their needs more specifically.
And so, one of the challenges, especially in markets that you're focused in, I think you're in, Kenya, Philippines, Mexico, India. How do you have the data to provide, banking and lending services to this customer segment?
It's a hard thing when you think about the data side. The thing, I don't know if most people know this, but about 85% of the world is still cash-based. And so as a result of that, we don't have formal credit histories on this demographic. And so only about 30% of the adult population is even covered within a bureau. So one, there's a huge piece of kind of financial services infrastructure that's missing. The second thing is that most markets don't have national ID systems, and really there is no kind of aggregated global payment system. And so we've had to really rethink the data side of it, the identity side, but the entire supply chain. And so it's been, I think, one of those kind of journeys when you think of it as like, when I first entered or thought about how to solve this problem, I really focused only on the data side, but started to ultimately realize that in order for us to deliver, again, products to this demographic, we would actually need to take on more of that supply chain as well. And so on the data side, we really think of it in two ways. One, what we're trying to do is understand a customer's capacity. So we're trying to understand, okay, what are different data categories that we can bring in that allow us to understand a customer's consistency of bill payments, as well as then the next category is really financial decision making. So now if we believe this customer has the capacity to repay, are they likely to repay? And what is their character? What is their behavior? What are some of those sort of behavioral data points we can bring in? So we bring a lot of that in from the person themselves. And so it's coming in through the mobile device, as well as within our application, we're asking very specific questions around, again, identity, but also, again, trying to understand financial anxiety, responsibility, as well as financial decisions within their life that they've already taken.
Yeah, that's terrific. We, you mentioned how most of the world is cash based. At Visa, we look at cash as a total part of the consumer spend, and there's about $18 trillion every year in cash. It's double the Visa payment volume. So we are very excited when companies like Tala are able to digitize some of that spend and at least get funds into wallets that are sort of digitized. Um, Maybe just to going back a little bit, can you talk about what inspired you to start Tala, and then your journey from, I think, a more traditional banking analyst side into a founder? Tell us about that transition.
Sure. It's been quite a journey. So on my end, I think the first thing I always say is that I did not think I was going to be a founder or an entrepreneur. I was working at the UN Population Fund prior to going back into investment banking and starting Tala, and I worked across 9 different markets in West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And I think one of the key things that has allowed me to really, again, stay focused on the problem, but also along this journey, is the fact that I was very proximate to the pain points our customers were facing. And so I literally would go to customers' homes in the morning, and I would go to work with them, and I was able to understand how much money they made that day. I would then actually go to the marketplace with them, understand what decisions they made, how much money went towards inventory for the next day, how much went towards bill payments, or again, how much went to kids' education, home improvements. I would go home with them and understand, how much did they save, put under a mattress or into a lockbox. And so I was able to understand, again, the aspirations they had, how they ran their businesses, the pain points that they had, where they felt stuck. But I was also able to understand the mental models that they had around cash and how they thought about protecting their money. And as a result of that, one, I was able to witness daily life data in front of me. And so over the course of the 4.5 years that I worked at the UN Population Fund, I actually was able to observe or interview about 3,500 individuals. And so in some ways, I was able to see that this was a global problem, but I was also able to really believe in this customer and the potential that they had, and was fueled to figure out how to unlock that purchasing power and that potential. And so that kind of started me on it. Really just became obsessed with the problem, came back to the US, went back into the private sector, and couldn't forget about it. And so started building the prototype and our models on my own. And then eventually, did go full time on this, but it kind of took on a life of its own. Yeah. It was a really exciting journey. And I think from my standpoint, I think it's finding a problem you can't stop thinking about, which is what makes it possible to stay on that road.
Yeah, that's a terrific story, and many of the founders and CEOs that we speak to have this notion of being so infected with an idea that they really can't get it out of their head. So it sounds like that was the path that you were on. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that I have for you is fintech, banking and lending are inherently, local businesses, and you operate in multiple countries, really on a global platform.
They are. I mean, I think what you're, talking about is true, in that the regulations are going to be localized. At the same time, I think when we look across these markets, in some ways, when we think about digital financial services and what's changing in the landscape, regulations in some ways are in a nascent stage across most of these markets. And so in some ways, Tala is actually leading the charge in that direction, in that we're able to actually look at what's happened in the US or the UK, or what's happening in markets like India or the Philippines around the regulatory landscape, and actually bring that into other markets like Mexico and into Kenya. And so really kind of pushing for consumer protection and these things that we think are right and have actually helped other markets. And so in some ways, our global knowledge allows us to actually provide a lot of more localized support to push the industry. The other thing I would say is that from a data perspective, this is actually, I think, where Tala is probably best positioned, is that when we think about what we've now built an understanding of, almost now over 6 years worth of data and history across 4 very disparate markets across 3 continents. and a true understanding, again, of each individual in those markets, but also their interactions and financial lives over the last 6 years, right? And so in some ways, the way we think about it is our data almost continues to compound on itself. So every new individual that comes in, it increases our understanding of all the other individuals in our database as well. And so when we go into a new market, we have global models that we actually start with because we have identified global features that are applicable. And then we're able to start to localize based on what may be happening within that market.
Got it. So Shivani, can you tell us a little bit about some of the capabilities that you're adding into the Tala wallet? You have this, incredible footprint of customers around the world. They're KYC, they're part of the financial ecosystem, but you're adding some things to the wallet. What are those that you're announcing this week?
Yeah, so what we're adding in this week is the ability for our customers to hold USDC in the Tala wallet. And then we're also giving them access to a companion debit card, allowing them, again, to physically as well as virtually enable merchant transactions.
Yeah, this is a trend that we're seeing everywhere where fintech and crypto capabilities are merging. So if I have this correctly, if I'm an existing, verified Tala customer, I can have USDC wallet, so inflows can come into my account through USDC. And then at some point, once the debit card is live, I can actually go and spend it at a supermarket, which we think is a really interesting kind of, collection of both alternative lending, crypto wallets and a Visa card tying it together, and very excited to kind of see the rollout.
Definitely. I mean, if you think about it, going back to what Tala's mission is in terms of accelerating financial agency, we really do think this is one of those things that can accelerate our customers' ability to, again, use their money, again, physically, virtually, but also be able to protect their money and have a lot more control, again, over their wallet and their financial lives.
Yeah. Well, let me move over to our kind of lightning round questions. And we'd like to ask this of all of our guests. The first one is, what do you think is most misunderstood about your ecosystem?
I think the thing that I always think about is probably two things. One is that our customers, are not resilient. I think a lot of folks think that during COVID, the underserved, while definitely affected in some ways, was actually more resilient than we saw across developed markets. They face volatility every single day, and so they do know how to overcome challenges. And so that's a lot of what we saw across all of our markets. Is in some ways, out of COVID, they've come out more resilient. So that's the first thing I'd say, and then I think the second is that when we call it, financial inclusion and the underserved, in some ways I think of it as like, we need these individuals participating in that global marketplace for all of us to win. And so, I don't know if I would actually call it financial inclusion, and instead actually just think that this is something that we have to do. It's just essentially good business for all of us.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. And if you come up with a better word for it, we'll certainly be using it at Visa. What is your most magical payment or fintech experience as a consumer?
It's interesting. I would actually say it's what we provide to our customers. The ability for our customers to go from the Google Play Store to actually having access to capital in their wallets in under 10 minutes. Unfortunately, like in the US, I don't even have access to capital like that. That kind of magic moment doesn't exist for all of us. And so I would actually say I'm looking for that magic moment, even in more developed markets, but excited that we've been able to provide that kind of magic of first access to our customers.
Yeah. And then just maybe we'll end with, looking ahead, what are sort of one or two trends that you think are going to impact your ecosystem? What do you get excited about?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think I am very excited about what we're now seeing in the crypto landscape and across these new ecosystems that are starting, especially what we're seeing in, on the African continent right now, specifically happening in East Africa. I just think, again, the way that governments are now starting to accept crypto. I just think it will change the entire landscape around, again, how the underserved is able to get access to aid, but also, again, really be seen as true consumers in the financial marketplace. And so I would say that like where we are today as being, collaborators in where the crypto landscape is going is very promising.
Well, great. When we very much look forward, to seeing you collaborate and work with, the crypto ecosystem, and hopefully this is something that is additive and helps Tala with the mission of serving the underbanked. Well, Shivani, it was a great pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you very much for coming on FinTech Perspectives, and good luck.
Thank you so much.